Hi, this is Paz from Pictures, Noise and Words, and today I will be going through my ranking of the studio albums of the American prog rockers Queensryche. Queensryche, one of my favourite bands growing up. They could not do any wrong up to the 93? Was it 93? I'll check that. 94, so the Promised Land album. And Christy Gamo soon left after that. I think he did one more. And the band decided to take it a little bit of a turn. If you don't know anything about that, then go and look up Queensryche versus Jeff Tate and on the Google. I'm sure you'll find lots of things to read on that. They split there, but we won't go into any of that because that doesn't matter. It's all about the music, isn't it, really? This will include the EP, the very first EP they did. It will not include the cover album they did back in 2007 called Takeover. Without further ado, should I toy on including Frequency Unknown, which is 2013's Frequency Unknown. This is from Jeff Tate's Queensryche, which he released while they were battling over the name. I think they're trying to release a Queensryche album before a certain deadline for a court appearance, so Jeff Tate wanted to get in there first, so he just hired a lot of studio musicians and threw this thing together. While I'm talking about it, let's include it. It's bloody awful. It's absolutely dreadful, and I don't mind talking about it first because it will be at the bottom of the list. It is it's awful, not only because the songs are awful and the production is awful. It's awful because for the reasons why it was made. You should not be writing an album just to prove I suppose that's what David Mustaine tried to prove a point, didn't he? Get back at Metallica. But this was different. This seems very cynical, and it was thrown together in about a few weeks, to the point where it was recorded production on it was so poor that the record company had a competition about who could slag it off first with a video thing. I think the album has since been remixed, and it still doesn't improve the songs, because it's down to the songs really. The songs are pretty poor, and on top of that, there's 4 re-records of 4 classic Queensryche songs, and I've never heard something so awful, and it was a waste of life by not only me listening to it, but the people who put it together. And on those tunes, not only did they sound weak and the mix was terrible, but Jeff couldn't even. He needed a bucket to carry the tune in. He's off a couple of places as well. It was all done for the wrong reasons, and that's why it's at the bottom of my list. It's not even a Queensryche album in my eyes, but I just had a little bit of a rant about it, because it would come bottom. Anyway, second from bottom is the album that kind of started the infighting, started this battle between the names, is Dedicated to Chaos. The Queensryche I loved was no longer there, and I don't have this one. Incidentally, I do have Frequency Unknown. I have it digitally. I didn't get the album. I got the original version. That's enough for me. Dedicated Chaos, I have heard it a couple of times, didn't bother buying it. It's one of those try before you buy. It's good things about having the internet. You can have a listen to it first before you spend your money. So I'm quite glad I saved it, because wasn't Queensryche, and Jeff Tate, the man with the golden tonsils, was just singing in himself all the time, not really singing any proper melodies. The guitars are almost gone. It felt like a band really struggling to find where they fit in. In 2011, where do you put them? And they're floundering to find out. I think they knew where they wanted to go, but since Chris DeGarmo, with guitar player, one of the chief songwriters, left, Jeff Tate kind of took over the reins, and kind of steered the Queensryche ship, and it all led to Dedicated Chaos. Not good at all. Moving on, another one. It's another one I've got digitally, but it'll be Cold Day in Hell before I get into this turgid bore fest, and that is 2009's American Soldier. I can't even name one song off it. It's so unmemorable and so it's just so boring. You think, this is just straight up plain rock. Where's all the harmonies? Where's all the things that I love about Queensryche and got me into it? It's just not there. Just not there at all. And what is interesting, if you go and look at the credits for this album, and not only this one, but also Dedicated Chaos and Operation Mindcrime 2, which we'll get onto. Not all. Jeff Tate's getting in outside writers and using what seems like yes men, and they're just not good enough. You know, if you got a band that's created so much success with certain writers, and then you start excluding them, what are you going to get? Unfortunately, get American Soldier, which is a turgid bore fest. It's better than Dedicated Chaos and better than Frequencies Unknown, but maybe a Cold Day in Hell if I listen to that album again. So, next one on the list is... Have I included them? Yes, I have. 1999's Q2K, which is this one, which is what I do have here. It's the first album they did without Chris DeGarmo on guitar as one of the chief songwriters, and it's really a huge disappointment. I wanted to like it, and to be fair, there's a couple of ones I really like on here, like The Right Side of My Mind, really like that. Sacred Ground, really like that. Liquid Sky is have I got that one? Liquid Sky? I think it's Liquid Sky. It's really good, and the rest of it, I remember listening to it and thinking, this just, what's gone wrong here? This is just straight up like just American rock. Where's all the interesting stuff? Is it gone? And it's not even very memorable. One of the things that I'll get onto the Here and Now and the Now Frontier, but all the things that I liked about Queensryche seem to be devoid on here. A couple of highlights, which is why it's ranked higher than the others, but it's just what a snooze fest. It really is. Not great. Perhaps a signal, a sign of things to come. Although they did redeem themselves after this a little bit. Still, not good. Next, we have 2006 Operation Mindcrime 2, an album that didn't really need to be made, certainly not with the Operation Mindcrime name on it. It is a pale comparison to Operation Mindcrime. Again, it's got Jason Slater's name as producer, and I think he wrote quite a lot of stuff, I think, on it. I don't think like Eddie Jackson or Michael Wilton were given much chance to contribute to this. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. It's a bit of a desperate attempt to capture past glories and a bit of a cash-in fest. On the whole, it doesn't work. The production on it is just woeful. It really is. And I remember doing a review for an online magazine at the time, and I echo what I said back in 2006. Is some of the ideas are okay, but it produced. I've heard demos that are better produced than this. The guitars are so thin. The bass has no depth whatsoever, and the songs To be fair, the middle of it, there's about 4 songs that I think, yeah, they could have made something of this. The Chase, Murderer, Circles, Rearrange You, Science Says No. That crop right in the middle kept me going. Unfortunately, the last 4 songs, just falling asleep. And what is also disappointing, it also leaves a bad taste in the mouth, is I saw them on this tour, and they said they were going to do Operation Mindcrime and Operation Mindcrime 2 back to back, as one huge complete story. And so I went all there, all excited, and what you got was an abridged version of both albums. I think it only lasted about an hour and 20 minutes. So disappointed. And that's really when my love for Queensryche died that day, even though did I get any albums after this one? Yeah, because American Soldier and Dead Chaos I didn't buy when as soon as they came out. I was still buying them as soon as they came out, but this album and the tour that followed it after, it's like, no, we're done, thanks very much and good night. Yeah, a couple of highlights shows you what it could have been, but on the whole, pretty of a poor effort and one of the worst produced albums from a band who should know better. Right, next on the list we have 2003's, as you can see, it's all clumped in a mid-range Queensryche, Tribe. Now with Chris D'Agamo on guitars, he left after Here and Now Frontier in 97, and he came back briefly, mainly I think just as a songwriter, and he helped out with this, and you can tell some of the songs on here are quite memorable. It's just the first 5 songs, Open, Losing Myself, and a great song called The Great Divide on here. This and Here and Now Frontier, which is next, by the way. I might do these two together because there's not much between these two for me. They're a bit, for me, they're not Queensryche, and it's a little bit like Halloween's Chameleon in the fact that it's not got any, like Chameleon didn't really have any of the Halloween traits, but it's a good album nonetheless. That's how I feel about these two. They've got some great songs on here, like on Here and Now Frontier, Sound of Times, really love that. All I Want, Hit the Black, Spool, I love that song, still do. Saved. I mean, it's not, for me, it's not classic Queensryche. It's where they start to sound a bit more grungy, a bit more straightforward American rock, and but the songs are still really good. The songs still had it, and the melodies are good, and that's why I hold them in high regard and all the other stuff that came after, because it's all about the songs, isn't it? Not a classic Queensryche album because it hasn't got that classic Queensryche sound, but still memorable because they've still got some good songs on here. Fortunately, it wasn't to last, but that was Tribe. So obviously, next on the list is Here and Now Frontier. Now I played this a lot when it came out because I really enjoyed it, because I tell you the songs are pretty good. Now people are Queensryche fans are always moaning that Queensryche have not been the same since Chris D'Agamo left, but this is as far from the Queensryche sound as you're going to get at the time, and this has got Chris D'Agamo's name all the way through it. In fact, he sings on at least one of them. I think just the band were evolving. You have to, evolve with them. Or I think, thanks very much for the memories, and you move on to something else. But I really enjoyed it. It was a change in sound, but I still really like the songs. And the one thing about the Q2K that came after this that didn't have the songs, and it was a bit of a snooze fest. This did have the songs, and I really thoroughly enjoy it. Well, if you like old Queensryche and you stick this on, you wonder if it's the same band. Next we have obviously the split with Jeff Tate in 2012, I think it was, and they brought in a singer called Toddle Torre from he's in Crimson Glory at the time, and I remember all this going on, and there's some footage of Queensryche doing some old, well, members of Queensryche doing some old classic Queensryche songs which they didn't play, or maybe they weren't allowed to play them, in a club, and it was called Rising West, and it's basically Toddle Torre doing his best Jeff Tate on some classic Queensryche songs in a small club somewhere in I think it's Los Angeles, and it sounded amazing, and I was buzzing for it. I thought, oh yes, that sounds fantastic. And then obviously they did the members of Queensryche won the name. They did an album, and then the first proper full length album after that, they put on Kickstarter, which I ended up backing. I got a nice T-shirt with it, and I only got the album digitally. I didn't actually get the physical copy. It was just the T-shirt and the digital copy of the album, which I don't have here, which I'll try and put up somewhere. So, but that comes next, and that is 2015's Conditioned Human. I wouldn't say I was disappointed when I first heard it. I would say I was underwhelmed and never really gave it much of a shot, because it starts off all right and then it loses me in the middle before picking up at the end. And I thought, go on, I'll have another listen to it. We're talking about 3 or 4 months ago, and I was amazed how much I enjoyed it, and that's why it's quite, it's crept up on this list. I think I underestimated it initially. I still think it's the weaker of the new Queensryche ones, but it's got some really good solid stuff on it, like I think Guardian's on that one, because that's a belter, that is. Strong Start, Arrow of Time, Guardian, Hellfire, really good songs. Bulletproof is a quality pseudo ballad. I probably would have taken, there's 12 songs on it for 53 minutes. I probably would have shaved 7 minutes off, maybe taking off a song Hourglass, and maybe one called Just Us. Made it a bit of a tighter affair, and it probably would. I think that's why it loses me in the middle, because of those things. You think, oh, there's another slow mid-tempo plodder. But say I've revisited it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've been revisiting it a couple of times now, so it's obviously made more of an impression second time around. I think the latest one's probably helped in that regard. So anyway, moving on, we have, how many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th place. Oh, well, it's taking a while. We have 94's Promised Land. Yeah, really enjoyed this when it came out. Again, this is slightly progressive, but different, and that's quite a skill actually, is to have a band that still sounds like the band, but sounds as if the band's progressed onto something else. And this is a perfect example of a band moving their sound on without really alienating their fan base, because the quality was still here. Like IMI, good strong opener, Damaged, an all-time classic Queensryche song. Promised Land is brilliant, doomy, dark, slow burn of a track. Disconnected, sparse but enjoyable. Lady Jane, I've always enjoyed that one. My Global Mind, somebody said that's one of their favourite Queensryche songs. Couldn't hear that in that myself. One More Time's alright, and they're quite brilliant. Someone else there with a fantastic vocal performance from Jeff Tate on that. For me, it just Out of Mind and Bridge. Okay, Out of Mind's pretty good. Bridge is not that strong. My Global Mind and One More Time, not that strong. Certainly, it all feels a bit pedestrian. There's not much pace in this, but what it lacks in pace, it makes up for in songwriting chops, for the most part, and it's quite different. Although I don't find myself going back to it very often. I tend to go back a little bit earlier than this, but I remember enjoying it a hell of a lot when it first came out. Right, next on the list is the one that preceded it. So I'm going to say that a lot of these things precede. And that is, where are we? 1990s Empire. An album that hasn't really aged that well for me, I must admit. Plus, some of the songs in here I've just heard too many times. It's probably why it's lower than I thought it would do. I think I may have just played it out a bit. All the best I can. It opens with, it's pretty good. The Thin Line, always like the bass line on that. Eddie Jackson always has really good depth to his bass tone. But Jet City Woman, always thought it was a bit overrated as a song. I always go when it comes on. Della Brown, they should play that again, so I've always thoroughly enjoyed that. In fact, I called my my second dog Della after that song. Another Rainy Night Without You is a bit of solid stuff, but felt like Operation Mindcrime left over. Empire, fairly solid. Resistance, always enjoyed that one. Silent Lucidity, it'd be a cold day in hell if I listened to that one again. Hand and Heart, it was alright. One and Only, again, alright. And anybody listening, another amazing end of album track with a super performance from Jeff Tate there. Really, when they slow it down and really belts out a fantastic melody, it's just Queensryche at the best, and some of the genre's best slower ballady moments from Queensryche, and the melodies and the Jeff Tate's voice, just wonderful. But say, not aged that well for me. Maybe because I've heard some of the songs too many times. Still, is it a good jumping on point for Queensryche? If you've not heard any Queensryche, maybe because it's easily digestible. It's listenable too. There's nothing too offensive in it. So, yeah. But Jet City Woman, nah, get out of here. Right, next on the list, we got to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th spot. Yeah, this might surprise people. And 6th spot is 2013's self-titled first album with Total Torre. And I remember getting this, and it was like a huge sigh of relief. Oh, this is just Queensryche back to how I love it. When I play this I remember going to do a job down in South Wales, and the journey was from my house at the time about 2.5 hours, and I had this, and it's only about 35 minutes long. It's not very long at all. You think, that's quite a lot short for an album, but I've just done Van Halen's thing, and the longest album was about 33 minutes for the first 7 years. So it's all down to the songs, I suppose. But I got to the end of it, and I just looped it back, and I think I listened to it 4 times on the run on this way down to South Wales. I could not get enough of it. It suffers from a bit in the mix. I think probably would have mixed it a little bit better. Some of the guitars are a little bit thin. I think the compression is a bit too high, so everything sounds on the same volume. So you haven't got a lot much depth to the sound. But I really love the songs in here. Red Dreams Go to Die, In This Light, Redemption, Spore, sorry. Midnight. In fact, all the songs, I don't think there's a weak moment on this for its limited playtime. 35 minutes, whatever. Really good packaging as well on this. And it did feel like a new dawn for Queensryche, and something that I had missed. And I didn't realise I was still craving this Queensryche sound of the twin harmony guitars and soaring vocals that the band had lost since arguably since after Promised Land, I guess. Yeah, the music wasn't for me, and then suddenly they were making music that did appeal to me. So that's why it's quite up on this, because fond memories of this album. Played it a lot, and it was thinking, oh yes, Queensryche, come on, yes. Even though I thought that the follow up wasn't as strong as this Song of Song, it still feels like it's nice to have the boys back. Top 5. 5th spot, I'm going to go for their self-titled EP. Only 4 songs, what 4 songs they are. Queen of the Reich. I mean, it's just what an amazing song that is, and an amazing vocal performance. I remember, what year is this? 83. I remember listening to this, and when you listen to Jude. I wasn't a big fan of Judas Priest, but I was aware of Rob Halford, and then you saw a big fan of Bruce Dickinson, and then and Dio, and Jeff Tate comes along, and just think, wow, just listen to that guy. It's amazing melodies as well. And Queen of the Reich is just a fist pumping metal anthem if there ever was one. Knight Rider, Blinded, and the Lady Wore Black. Really strong statement to put out for your first EP. Really, really good. I think I picked this up for about £3. Right, top 4. This is we're not really into any duffers here since I think since Promised Land. It's all been top draw stuff, and I am really pleased to put their latest one, The Verdict, in their top 4 spot. Competing with the cream of Queensryche's discography. The Verdict from last year, 2019. Really strong stuff. This is Todd La Torre settled into his role as Queensryche singer, and he just sounds amazing. I think I've seen him twice now, at Manchester and Wolverhampton. Amazing, what an amazing singer. It's just a joy to watch somebody as good as him, and he soars into the high notes and tackles some of the very difficult melodies from the Queensryche's early period. But he's a fan, so he's a fan of Queensryche, so he really wants to be there, and he can tell. Blood of the Levant, Man in the Machine, Light Years, Inside Out. One of my favourite songs of modern Queensryche, Dark Reverie. Superb stuff. That really takes me back. In fact, when I first listened to this, I thought, my goodness me, this reminds me of the same vibe I got listening to Rage for Raw the first time round. And songs like Dark Reverie, bring that home for me. It's pretty strong all the way through. I think it's the strongest effort since the rebirth in 2012. So it's worth giving this a listen if you don't know any modern Queensryche. Todd sounded amazing. Top 3, third spot is 1984's The Warning. I've only just got this on the CD not so long ago. It's right, still shiny. I used to have had the vinyl for so long. I think I wore that out. When I used to play cricket in a cricket club. There's quite a number of Queensryche fans, and they always used to. In fact, they got me onto it. So I could listen to "Take Hold the Flame." I think that was the first thing I heard, and I thought that's just amazing. But then "Take Hold the Flame," I got the listen to the EP. But "Warning," "Enforce," "Deliverance," NM156, "Take Hold the Flame," and the superb "Road to Madness." Not many, I don't think there's any weak moments on here. The only thing weak about it is probably the dry production on it. It felt like they could have spent a couple of extra quid if they had it. Probably didn't on a bit more of a solid production. But that doesn't take away from the fact that the song's well out. That's why it's still in my top 3. Superb stuff. Number 2, second spot. Now, I didn't like this when it first came out. I thought, oh, what's all this? And it grew on me very, very quickly because of one song. I kept going back to one song. From that one song, it's like, and then grew to the rest of the album to the point where I don't think there's any weak moments on this one either. The melodies are amazing, and that is Rachel Roder. And that one song is Nuit Regale. I thought that was so innovative and different. I just kept on going back to it, and from there I ended up listening to Chemical Youth, London, what a great song, Screaming into Digital, what an amazing rocker that is, and a superb ballad ender. I will remember the ballad endings again. Fantastic way to finish off an album. I only dream in infrared. Fantastic. Surgical Strike, another charge along rocker, and all the band firing on all cylinders for this one. Slightly glossier production on it than the debut. I still don't think they hit the highs on the production until the next one, but again, songs will out, and say there's no weak spots on this one, and I would say that one, and that one, and that one. Of course, it's all a matter of opinion, isn't it? But here we go. For my number one spot, Operation Mindcrime, in my top 10 albums ever I've ever heard of any band. It's just an incredible, not just concept albums, just albums all the way through. Again, not a weak moment on it. The story's amazing. I used to the vinyl. I used to sit there just trying to read all the lyrics, trying to follow what's going on, and so innovative at the time from 1988. When you think of what all the bands were doing, you had Iron Maidens were Seventh Son, the same 88, High to the Hair metal thing as well. You see them. Just on Van Halen. Van Halen were going into more of a radio rock, American rock thing, and then you hear this, which is far more, for me, so much more depth, without sacrificing any of the hooks and the melodies. I mean, if you listen to Eyes of a Stranger, that's just laden with hooks and great melodies, but still has that gravitas in the songwriting and all the lead harmony work in it. The best albums of all time. If you've not heard it, go and listen to it. Maybe a bit of an 80s production, but if that's the case, turn up as high a volume as you possibly can. And a huge influence on my life, because I do like to write albums with stories. I do like concept albums, and this is my first major exposure to the concept album, I suppose, to the point where I actually sat down and tried to understand the whole thing. Yeah, fantastic. I saw him. Did I see him on this tour? I think I saw him on that tour, and then I saw him on the I think it was the Empire tour, where they did all this all the way through from start to finish. One of my favourite gigs. Saw him on every tour, and I saw him on the Q2K tour, where Kenny Gray come in for Chris DeGarmo, and that was alright. Anyway, there we have it. Hope we didn't annoy you too much. There's the Queensryche discography done. Well, 33 minutes of this video. Right, let me know what you think. If you want a good starting off point for Queensryche, can't go wrong with that, I would say. Or the new one. That's Rageboard is probably a little bit of an acquired taste. I say, and now if you want a more easy listening, digestible one, probably Empire's probably a good place to start. Anyway, there we have it. Let me know what you think. See you soon.